Can everybody hear me? Should be good. Okay, thank you very much. I want to thank Dr. Rashid and Congress to inviting us to speak here today. It's a very good full room, which is nice to see so many people. You know, to see so many people interested in this subject, which is a huge subject around the world. And from your discussion this morning, Dr. Rashid, you know, it was really interesting to see the things that people are trying to do, things that people should be doing, because we get a lot of talk about climate change. We get a lot of talk about things that should be done. But what we need to be doing is doing things. You know, I see a lot of the climate change protesters, well, the government should be doing this. My question to a lot of people is, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing to do something about it? I was really interested in the previous speakers thinking about ways of moving energy and doing all this sort of thing. This, to me, is fantastic because it's people actually doing something and not just talking about it. Talking about it is easy. We can all talk about it. But what we need to do is do something about it. Ecolab, Nalco, the company I work for, has been treating and looking after water for more than 90 years now. So we're a global company. We work in more than 70 countries around the world. We have 47,000 employees. It's people doing things around the world, actually making a difference. No, not just talking about it. So I want to have a look at some of the history of what we're doing and why we're in this situation with water, and see if we can come up with ways of addressing it. First, some facts and figures, some things that, you know, surprised me when I started to look at this, was the amount of water that we use to produce things, the things that we want daily, the things that we think we just accept. We just go to the shop, we buy, or we drive a car, or we use these things. And when you look at it, this is the amount of water that is used to produce a burger. 1,700 liters of water to produce a burger. 2,650 liters to produce clothing, to produce a shirt. Coffee, 208. You think when you have a cup of coffee, you're just drinking 150 ml. But it's the amount of water that's used to produce that is a really important thing. To produce a car, 148,000 liters of water. These are sort of numbers that are staggering. And when you start to think about, water shortages, then you start to think about these consumer things. So, by 2030, it is estimated that the world will need 40% more water. That's a lot. 35% more food and 30% more energy. All things we've been talking about this morning, things that were discussed in previous presentations. And again, these numbers are frightening because where is this going to come from? By 2030, 70% of the global economy will be affected by water scarcity. And I think it's a fact, and everybody knows that, you know, there's conflicts around the world for different reasons over all kinds of topics. But the prediction is that any conflicts in the future will be more about water. The wars potentially fought over water. And it's frightening to think that that could be our future. So, how did we get to this position? What happened? You know, how did we run out of water, in a sense, when our planet is 70% water? When you look at the oceans, everything, we're covered in water. So everybody looks around and thinks, what water shortage? You've only got to go near the coast and you'll see lots of water. Well, the problems come from growing population. And this, I sometimes think, is what we would say in English, the elephant in the room. You know, when we have climate talks, everybody talks about cars, everybody talks about ships and CO2 and all of these things. But the reason that we have all of these things is because there's a population growth, massive population growth, and a high demand for these things. So population growth is something that is really difficult for us to do anything about, but is causing a lot of the problems. That is moving on to climate change. So population growth is creating problems with climate change. Industry and agriculture. Industry is causing a lot of the problems, but it's giving people the things that they want or they demand, and they think they should be entitled to. So water scarcity, I'm afraid, is going to be the new normal. It's going to be what the world is going to have to look into. So what's the depth of this water scarcity? How deep does it go? Well, if you look at the inventory of water, as I mentioned, the Earth is largely covered in water, but 97.5% of that water is saline, is salt water, and only 2.5% is fresh water. Now, you think to yourself, well, that's okay, we just desalinate this water. We can do that, we have the technology. Yes, we do. And in the UAE and in the Middle East, we're very fortunate in that we have the energy and the money to be able to desalinate the water that we use. We could not live in this climate without the energy that's used to desalinate water. And this is, again, our previous speaker there was talking about how we can utilize energy better and how we can move it around. And this is such an important thing in this part of the world. So again, it's kind of frightening to see that, yes, we have all this water, but how much of it can we actually use?